What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Matt Pete Marketing Podcast. Today, I am so excited to bring you Olivia Pelts. Now, Olivia is a total nerd when it comes to marketing and automation. One of her pet peeves is that so many therapists, chiropractors, midwives, doulas, etc., have poop emoji websites. She actually put the poop emoji in there, so I wanted to leave it in there. Olivia is passionate about helping business owners in the healing industry make the kind of money they've always dreamed of. And her strength is in all things systems, automations, and marketing. Through working with Olivia, her clients feel more empowered when it comes to knowing their own brand and their voice and how to speak to their ideal clients, which is a huge deal. She's done some awesome things. She's helped the smallest CrossFit gym in Tampa Bay and helped them grow to 3 locations with over 400 members. She helped a side hustle private practice grow into a thriving business with teams of therapists throughout 4 different states. She's done some pretty incredible things. Olivia, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So what's your marketing passion?
I mean, you kind of just said it, right? Like, I absolutely hate the fact that as healers, of all different varieties, therapists, chiropractors, midwives, doulas, all of those folks, we always have really terrible websites. And most of the time, we don't know how to talk to our ideal client. We're just like anyone and everyone. And then we end up talking to no one. So I absolutely love helping business owners, whether they're solopreneurs or, group practice owners, help them to kind of identify like what's their unique kind of magic sauce in the world and how to get that message out to their ideal clients. And so that can look a lot of different ways, but that's like, I love doing that. So I do a lot of coaching around that. I, help build systems around that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really love that kind of stuff.
Awesome. That's why I'm excited to have you on today, because you work with more of that brick and mortar style. You help them craft that online presence to get more clients through the doors, basically.
Yeah.
Craft that story. And like you said, that using that voice to connect with their ideal audience instead of just throwing hooks out to everybody. It's like, that saying of if you try to please everybody, you're going to please nobody kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And COVID's been so interesting too in our industry, where, I think a lot of therapists in particular, because that's kind of that's what I am. And I'm a group practice owner in St. Petersburg, Florida. Therapists specifically really struggled, who were just seeing people face to face and had no concept of seeing anyone online. And so then COVID happened. And then we were automatically forced online, and which threw a lot of people for a loop, because there's a lot of old school therapists, older therapists too, who are like, I don't have a website. And they kind of like pride themselves on that. And then when the pandemic happened, it's like, oh shit, like no one can find me. And now I have to figure out how to do all this tech stuff that I have, not ever had to deal with. And so that was a huge deal, but we're also seeing a crazy boom right now with people seeking therapeutic services. And so, yeah, there's a lot of potential, but also a lot of heartache that went down initially, for sure.
Oh yeah. And I didn't even think about that in our pre-interview. Like with COVID hitting, that shifted the entire industry's marketing.
Oh yeah. It's wild how there's the digital world now is like, it's a whole new frontier for therapists. I mean, there are therapists now who are like, you know what? I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to in person.
Oh, again. Wow.
Because they like the freedom, right? Like this summer, like my whole family, we're going up to Portland, Maine, and I'm going to work remote, and we're going to just hang out up there, like, because I can, and our consumers awesome. Are more in tune with like, oh, therapy can happen online. Whereas prior to COVID, not many people were A, willing to do it, or B, they're like, that's weird. But I worked with a lot of overseas NGO workers and ministry organizations. So I had already been working with folks. And so I was kind of like, cool, this is great. But for a lot of people, it was really, really tough. But it's a huge expansion in our industry, which is really cool. And I think pretty terrifying for a lot of people too.
Yeah, especially like you said, the people who pride themselves on not having a website. I've met people like that. And it's like, yeah, it's doable, but like things like COVID happens, and what are you going to do? I mean, it's having you master one stream. Okay. Your word of mouth is good. That's great. But like, let's not stop there. You've mastered that. Okay. That's good. Let's get a website and email marketing in place, or a Facebook group in place, so you can still reach out to those people once they're not able to come in person.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to jump in here, Olivia, and do a pod decks question. We talked
Okay.
about this briefly
Yep.
before we jumped in. Everybody watching, they know what this is. They're my sponsor basically for every episode, Olivia. So people, if
Cool.
they use code TheMattPete when they check out, they get 10% off any of their physical decks, which they have a good many of. But let's try. I'm totally random card here. Let's see what we got. Who are your heroes in real life?
Ooh, great question. Ah, man, I have such a hard time with like my favorites or like the number one. So let's see here. I think my first one would definitely, the first one that comes to mind is Brene Brown.
Okay.
Freaking love her. So she is a shame and vulnerability researcher over in Houston, Texas. So I'm originally from Texas, so I like the fact that she's also from Texas. But yeah, I mean, she's incredibly gifted. She's written a bunch of books, but I love her work all around shame and vulnerability. So like professionally, that would definitely be one. And I think another one would be my dad. He growing up, he exemplified uh, not just hard work, but also prioritizing family. Like I found out years later that he chose not to take a particular promotion because it would mean that he would have to travel a lot and he
Mm.
would be away from like my basketball games or my brother's games, and he chose not to do that. And so he got passed up for a promotion that he later ended up getting. Um, but that just like spoke just so much of who he was. Like he was at every single thing that I ever did and was like my biggest fan. Um, even though he had no idea, like, cause he had never played basketball or any of that stuff. And he's like, I don't really know what's happening, but like, teach me, you know? And so, yeah, I so appreciated that, about him and now being a parent myself. Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's huge.
grateful that he was my dad for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. And to give up things like a promotion, like that's,
Yeah.
I mean, most people work really hard to get promotions in their life. And it's like like they said, that prioritization, that's awesome that he did that.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
All right, Olivia, what's something you see people do in their marketing that makes you cringe?
Um, just have terrible websites. Like I think uh, therapists in particular are like some of the worst. Like some websites that I've seen like still have music. It's like the old
Oh man.
like the music that's overlaying. I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, is that coming from the lap? You know, so like it's really like cringe worthy. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, like even just incredible therapists that I know like do incredible work, it doesn't match their digital presence, doesn't match the kind of work that they actually do. And so then when someone just happens upon their website like this sucks, they must suck, it's like no, they're actually really great, but like, oh, you know. So that's the thing that like just kills me softly and slowly.
Yeah, I agree
You
with
know.
that. And because the internet's come so far and it's
Yeah.
so easy to make a decent look at, like, even if you don't have a huge budget, like Squarespace. I've got a buddy who
Yeah, I
he
love
makes,
Squarespace.
yeah, he makes great money, and his website is built on Squarespace. And
Hmm.
it's like, it's totally doable. People look down on it. It was like, you don't have to go out and spend $10,000 to get a custom website built to have a good looking website anymore.
Absolutely. And I mean, and Donald Miller over at Story Brand and Business Made Simple is doing incredible work when it comes to just teaching some really basic skills that can help people build a really freaking great website for not a lot of money, if that's something that you want to do, or you can go hire it out. But I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that are like, yeah, you know, like I spent three to $5,000 on my website. And I'm like, there's so much wrong with it. For a lot of reasons, but namely because they're being built by people who are not therapists. And the business
Mm.
of therapy or the healing industry is so specific and different than, you know, I have this phone that I'm selling or I have this other product that I'm selling. It's like, well, how do you sell yourself? And for a lot of us, it's really hard to even conceive of that because who am I? And I don't want to talk about myself, you know, or they talk about only themselves and not about their client when you go to their website. It's like, I don't care where you went to school. I don't care where you went to college. Like, can you help me in my problem? You know? And so there's a lot of websites that people spend a lot of money for and they think, okay, that's it. That's the end of the line. That's all I got to do. It's like, well, that's not necessarily true if it's built by someone who doesn't actually know your industry and how to talk to those specific people who are looking for those services.
Yeah. And, one thing I heard recently is that when marketing, everybody's either running away from pain or towards pleasure.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could be a huge disconnection. We have these people who build websites professionally. Most websites, and like you said, the industry is different. Most people are trying to help people get more money and, do that kind of stuff. They're running towards pleasure. With everything you mentioned, people are trying to run away from pain. Chiropractor, they've got a back problem. They need help. So trying to sell them on this pleasure lifestyle of, oh, everything's going to be amazing and great and you're going to make more money. It's, even at the skin level, it doesn't connect. You got to have that connection. And like you said, having somebody who's in the industry. I mean, that could be a job for somebody out there who's, if they're good at building websites and in that industry, like that's a niche right there. They could just hammer down into.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've inadvertently kind of fallen into that a little bit, like of designing websites from different templates. Like I know really nothing of coding. I know very, very little, but I know exactly what I want and how I want it to look to match someone's brand, and then how to talk to potential customers. And people are like, hey, can you build me one? Like, hey, can you give me an audit on my website? I'm like, sure, sure, great, and people think I'm trained. I'm like, I've just taught myself how to do a lot of this because I just am kind of nerd out on it and I really love it. But it's like, if you can talk less about, oh, like you were saying, like, oh, have this great life and da-da-da. It's like, no, speak to their pain of like, hey, are you tired of having the same argument with your spouse over and over and over again? Are you tired of being tired? Do you struggle with insomnia and lay awake at night thinking about past conversations that you've had over the last weeks, wondering what you might have said wrong that would make them not want to call you back? Like those kind of specific, granular things. It's like, oh my gosh, she's talking to me. She's in my diary, and I've had clients of mine who come in, they're like, and I'm like, hey, like, how'd you find us? And they're like, oh, I found you on the internet. And I gotta say, like, your website, like, I felt like you were talking right to me. I was like, yes, good. I was.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And to have that kind of insight, and it's becoming more and more obvious. Like you read in your intro, how you help your clients, marketing clients, find their voice, and feel empowered to use that. Like I said in there, it's huge to be able to speak to your ideal client.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I was going through your website, the Sunshine City Counseling, and it's great. It's a really well done website. I mean, I love it. And then you tell me where can, just real quick, we're talking about this website stuff. Where's the place people can go to talk to you about marketing stuff?
Yeah. So you can check out my one-on-one kind of coaching site, which is growinghealers.com. Or I co-own a business mastermind mentorship group. It's called the visionariescollective.com. And so we do masterminds, and we're actually having a course that will come out later this spring, which will be pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because being able to have that voice on the website, I've seen my fair share of bad websites, and honestly, contacting marketers, one of the things I do when I have people reach out, or, however, somebody word of mouth, whatever, I go to their website. It's like, if they're a marketer, unless like I learned recently, and you might know this, like not all good marketing, or not all pretty marketing is good marketing. Like sometimes ugly design is what's going to convert in a marketing aspect. So unless I see something that looks like obviously kind of thrown together to grab attention, but I've seen like I put somebody on my rejected list because they had like a course like you're creating, and they had two different courses they had created. On the website, it shows like it auto fills the content of the course, like the headlines and everything. And one of the courses had content in it, and that's the only way I knew this. And the other course was completely empty. It had placeholder text in it, like this will be auto filled as you create the titles. And it's like, that's not. I don't want to send my people who listen to my podcast to a website that's only halfway done.
Of course.
And that applies, I feel like, to every industry. It's like, I don't want to send them that website. I don't want to send them that chiropractor. It's like, it just doesn't look good. Whenever you have to preface it with, ignore their website, they're actually really good.
Yes. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. I was building out one of my buddies who's a holistic, she's a an acupuncturist and a therapist, and I recently did her website. And before it was done, people were asking me like, "Oh, how can I find Kim?" And I would send them, I'm like, "This isn't her. This isn't actually her website. Like, come back in a week, and the new one will be out." I'm like, just book here. Don't look at anything else." And they're like, "Okay, like whatever." But yeah, I mean, I get
Yep.
it. Like, I'm always, asterisks.
Yep. All right, Olivia, if you were to start marketing for a new business today and they gave you $1,000 for your
Uh-huh.
budget, how would you spend it to get some more clients?
Uh, First, I would start off with checking out their website and SEO. And so that's
Okay.
kind of where I'd first start off of seeing, because you can go spend all the money you want on Facebook ads and Google ads and ConvertKit and funnels and whatever, but like eventually that you're going to need to send them back to the website, maybe even just a landing page. And so I would want to do an audit of that, and do an SEO audit as well, to see, how well things are converting. Are they on Google My Business? Are they, how are they doing in rankings, their analytics? So I would start there, and assuming that their website was rock solid and awesome. And I was actually like doing stuff and had good content and like, lead generations and that kind of stuff. I have loved working with ConvertKit for
Mhm.
my funnel system. I'm actually getting ready to like migrate over to Kartra, just because it's going to serve me a little bit differently and better for what I want to do with selling courses and stuff. But to start, ConvertKit is really simple and really great. If you're like, what is email marketing? I don't even know.
Yeah.
That it's 29 bucks a month. So that's a great place to start. And again, assuming that their website is awesome and actually is doing stuff, then Google ads would definitely be something that could be helpful. Again, kind of depends, right? Facebook ads can be really great, but in the healing industry, people aren't going to Facebook to find their therapist necessarily, or their chiropractor or an acupuncturist, and so they're going to go to Google. So for our
That's true.
industry, Google ads tend to kind of trump. Now, for the fitness industry, I found that Facebook ads converted really well and were super cheap when I was a chief marketing officer over at Berg CrossFit. And so it just depends on some of the industry, or, doing both. Like, we're going to be selling a course, and so I'm going to go to Facebook ads and dump some money into that. So that would be really helpful. If you need content writing would be cool. One thing that I've recently kind of started playing around with, have you heard of Phantom Buster?
I have not. What is that?
It's interesting. It's crazy, actually. It's AI bots. And so essentially you can go in, I think it's $30 a month. They have like a 30-day free trial. But you can go in and you can set it up to scrape like entire Facebook groups, and you can pull their first name, their last name, their email, their business, like all these different like fields. So I did that once on like one of my Facebook groups. I was like, let's see how this works. And so I scraped it, and it did it in like 5 minutes and dumped it into an Excel spreadsheet. And then I can go and send auto messages on Facebook to those people saying like, hey, I'm going to do a Facebook live at noon today. I hope to see you, in my group or whatever. And so like, that's one automation. Again, depending on your industry, could be really cool for like lead stuff. You can also go on Google Maps, type in like your search parameters, and you can scrape all the businesses in a particular area. And so you can market to them. You can do that on LinkedIn. You can do that on Facebook Messenger. So it's pretty cool. So that could also be, again, depending on the industry, could be a really cool way of particularly specifically marketing to different folks with your offerings or whatever it might be. So
That's cool.
yeah,
I'm going to
it's,
check that out. Phantom Buster for everybody out
yeah,
there listening,
Phantom
watching.
Buster. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So
That's really, and yeah, you mentioned ConvertKit too. That's
yeah,
the email marketing I use
cool.
right now. And they have a free version now.
No,
Yeah,
cool.
they started doing a free one, which I think is brilliant, because everybody
Yeah.
for the longest time was like, "Oh, go to Mailchimp, it's free."
Yep.
I
Yeah.
hate Mailchimp. I've
I
used it
know.
before.
I
So
know.
ConvertKit, they did a thing where here's the catch. Here's how they created some like social stuff around it, which I think is kind of cool, but it's a little confusing to grasp. So if you go to ConvertKit and you sign up for a free account, then you don't have any spots for email subscribers. If somebody wants to subscribe to your list, you have to pay $29 a month. But if you get other people to sign up for it, then they give you 100 spots.
Huh.
If other people use your link to sign up for it, they start off with 500 spots. So it encourages you getting other
Sharing that,
people.
yeah.
Exactly. So you can have up to, I think,
Cool.
1,000 free email spots before you
Sweet.
have to pay $29. So if anybody out there wants to check out ConvertKit,
That's cool.
mattpete.com/ConvertKit's my code. You go in there and you get 500 free spots and you can use that as long as you want until you get to 500. Then you have to start paying or share it with somebody else. It's super cool. But I thought I'd throw that out there for anybody listening who might want to check out ConvertKit. And like you said, get into email marketing, but Phantom Buster, that's actually, I was thinking about how I could use that reaching out to local business because I do video marketing. So like if I can, if I can scrape Google and find local businesses and target ads directly to them, that's super targeted advertising marketing.
You can go on the Google Maps and you can scrape, and then you can also scrape. They have all kinds of stuff for LinkedIn and then Facebook. The Facebook one's pretty cool. And then they do have one for Instagram, I think, where you can auto follow it. And so like, it's basically a bot that will just go out and like different things and follow people. So that you can increase your social media following by using bots. It's so wild. I'm like, man, what else are they going to come up with? So, but I'm still like, kind of messing around with it a little bit, but it's pretty sweet. So that's $30 a month. But like I said, the first month I think is free.
Give it a try. See if you like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Another one that, depending on, again, the content creation of this particular company, this fictitious company that I'm working with, repurpose.io or repurposeful.io. Anyways, you can create a piece of content and then it sends it out into all these different platforms. So you don't have to like recreate the wheel. All you have to do is create an audio or the video, and then it'll shoot it out to all the different platforms. And I think it's $10, $15 a month for like the starter one. So that's, again, but if this particular company isn't doing content, again, thinking about what industry might be in, podcasting could be great. And that's been really helpful for my private practices. We have it's called A Safe Place to Land. And it's a podcast specifically dedicated to mental health stuff. So people want to hear about us talk about like EMDR or self-help tips or anxiety, depression, whatever. That cost me $15 a month on Libsyn to host. And it's just awesome content just going out,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So, okay. At the beginning of this question, you mentioned doing like a website scrape and checking their SEO and everything.
Yeah.
Can you tell me I know it's not a fast breakdown of how you do that, but like, I'm interested in like, what are things you're looking for when you go to somebody's website?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of different stuff, but I'm looking at when I first put it in, how long is it taking to load? Like if it's taken if it's taken longer than like a second or two, it's like, wow, you're potentially losing. And that was my website. My website sometimes has loaded really slowly. And so I paid people because I don't have time. I'm like, hey, can you go make this faster? Cool. So that's one thing, is your loading speed is pretty big. The other thing that I'm looking at is just on the very front of it, right? Just above the fold. Do I see their logo in the top left-hand corner? Do I see clear navigation things? A lot of times people either have no navigation or it's so cluttered. I'm like, I don't need to see like 12 different things. I need like 3 to 4, like, hey, new, start here. I love that, or like services or offerings, meet the team, or about me, maybe a blog or resources kind of tab. And then some kind of call to action on the far right-hand side. So we read left to right, right? So I'm starting on the left, I'm going to go over to the right, and I want to see a call to action. Then I'm going to zoom down and zigzag backwards again over to like the left-hand side of the screen. And I want to see, is the picture pixelated or is it really clear? Is it consistent with kind of the brand? You wouldn't believe like how many pictures I'm like, how does this have anything to do with what they do? And I'm not actually sure what they do. If I can't really tell like what you do on just, above the fold, like the front page before I click or do anything, then you're already losing people. It should be like Donald Miller says, it should pass the grunt test, right? So it should be really clear, like, if it's like Sunshine City Counseling provides the, number one individual counseling in St. Petersburg, Florida, or something like that would be very obvious. I think ours says like, step into your fullest potential with Sunshine City Counseling, like mental health, the kind of mental health support that you need, or something like that. And then, so you have like who you are, and then kind of like your tagline. And
Okay.
inherent in that tagline should be a source of pain or the problem and how you're going to fix it, the solution. And then there's two buttons that I really want to see too, ideally, is again the call to action. People are like, oh, it was already in the top right hand corner though. Why do I need it again? It's like, because you want them to actually schedule with you. Because our eyes are seeing all the things, and I might miss that call to action, like the book now or the call now or whatever it might be. And so you have your direct call to action, then you have what's called a transitional call to action, which could be like, for us, it's, hey, take our free anxiety quiz. For someone else, it could be download this checklist, you know? So maybe I'm not ready to book, but I'm really curious about that download. What's that about?
Okay.
Cool. And so that's kind of like at the very front. If I don't see that, it's like, okay, we already have a lot to fix. And then as I go down that website, right, as I go down that page, I want to see like, what are pain points that you're talking about? Like, what is the problem that you're going to fix for me? You know, I don't really care where you went to school. I don't really care that you're so credentialed or whatever, but like, I want to see, oh yeah, these are the things that you actually treat, or these are the things that you fix. Yeah, that's me. Or these are the things that you specialize in. What could my life look like if I work with you? Right. So again, you're as I'm going down, we're talking about pain, and then we're talking about the transformation, like, hey, and then somewhere in there it should be, here's who I am or who we are, the guide, right? This is how I'm going to help you. This is the process. And at the very end, I want to see like a 1, 2, 3. Make it super easy of like, number one, you know, I think for us, it's like, number one, pick your counselor. Number two, schedule a free session. Number three, like keep showing up. On my acupuncture website that I created, it was, you know, pick your treatment, schedule a consult, get your life back.
Okay. Awesome.
So
I mean, simple, like
yeah,
do these steps, like a straightforward, here's what you need to do.
it should be incredibly simple. If you are making it really hard, you're going to lose so many people, because you think about the user experience. If I know, most of the time when people go to a website, I do this, I'm like, I already know what I want to buy. You know, I want to
Yeah.
buy bed sheets. I bought bed sheets the other day, really fancy ones. And it was really hard for me to figure out. I'm like, where's the buy button? Like, where's the link? Where's the buy button? I'm like, why is this so hard? For most people, like, screw this. I'm going to go
Yeah.
somewhere else, you know?
Just going to go to Amazon.
Yeah. But you want to keep it
Yeah.
so simple and basic, in terms of like, as they're scrolling, having testimonials, having specific like call to action buttons of tell me more or learn more or book here or whatever. If you make it like cute and cutesy, you're going to lose people. Like this, it's like, keep it simple, stupid, right? So
I love that. I was literally taking notes on everything. Like I have like a whole like section of just like website review notes. This
yeah,
is so cool. And I found I do a good many things right.
yeah,
I have like the logo on the left, the navigation, clear
nice,
navigation. I have a call to action on the top right, which is something I just did because I was like, hey, this is like the perfect place to put like a access to a course, click
yes,
here, and it's like that kind of stuff. But there's also some stuff like the 1, 2, 3. I love that.
yeah.
I need the new start here in
Mm-hmm.
the navigation. What would you suggest? I mean, obviously it's going to be different for every business, I guess, but for like
Yeah.
me, I have a podcast and I do video marketing. Would you suggest I send people to the podcast to listen, or like a sales page for video marketing?
So, kind of depends on what you ultimately want people to do. It sounds like
Gotcha.
your big money maker would be your video stuff, right?
Yep. Yep.
So if I'm, a consumer of like, hey, I want to hire, like as a business, right? Like I've done a lot of video marketing stuff. And I want to hire someone who does video marketing. That would be a great opportunity. If I'm on your webpage and I'm like, I don't really know, like, what's this guy different than the other guys? I'm like, oh, new, cool, click here. And then you're going to tell me why I need you. Like, how can my business be better? Or maybe what are my pain points? And then how can my business be better by using you? And how are you different? Right. So
Yeah.
you're the guide, so to speak, of like, how are you different from the rest of the people, and why should I choose you? And then what's going to happen for me if we do get to work together, and then throw some testimonials on there. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to I'll just copy and paste this and put it in your show notes
Yeah.
because
Cool.
that was a really cool section to go through. People can go through their own website just on the homepage there and be like,
Yeah.
check the boxes. Do I have this and this and this and this? And like you said, make it simple. I can't stand when it's like, why are you making it so hard for me to give you money? Like I've said that on websites before. It's like, make it easy for people to give you money.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, I'm gonna throw down like $100+ and you're making it so hard. I kind of want to run, but I really,
Right.
so like whatever, you know. But yeah.
All right, Olivia, tell us the story of one of your biggest marketing mistakes.
Oh man. When I first started therapy, many moons ago, in Orlando, I was the first hire at a group private practice. And so they had no idea what they were doing with marketing. They're like, cool, like this will be great. Like, we'll figure it out together. And I remember like thinking, how the heck am I going to get people to call me? How am I going to get them to find me? So like my biggest fail, so to speak, is really like, I just didn't know anything.
Mm.
And so for months, I was like, my husband's in grad school. I'm making no money. And then I go into this big existential like crisis. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be a therapist. Like, what's wrong with me? You know, and like all these different things. And then I finally had this moment of like, I didn't go to school for business. I don't know what marketing is. I don't know what SEO and website and I don't know. But I'm just gonna listen to a lot of. So I just literally like devoted all the time that I wasn't spending with clients into teaching myself about marketing, SEO, websites, like everything. Um, and then eventually throughout the next like year and a half, I moved to St. Petersburg, started coaching at this gym. I was like, hey, we should do some stuff. And they're like, yeah, we don't know what to do. Like, do some stuff. And so like I would just record these videos of me talking about like really, really basic of like what to expect in a CrossFit class and just really simple stuff and putting it up online. And then slowly kind of snowballing into, hey, let's do 3 free classes. And then, we had like 20, 30, 40 people show up in a given week to take these free classes. I'm like, oh no, we've done something, and just continuously learning. So like my biggest fail, so to speak, is just the fact of like, I had no idea what I was doing and I just was really fired up to figure it out. So I just taught myself everything. Like I have no formal education. Like I've had so many people be like, did you have a marketing background? Or the biggest compliment that I get now is people mention, they're like, who do you hire for marketing for Sunshine City? It's really good. I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, it's me. But yeah, so I mean, it really doesn't have to be this mysterious, like luck of the draw kind of thing. It's very much, it's an art for sure, but there's a lot of science to it. Once you kind of figure out A plus B equals C, you can get that every single time.
That's awesome. And that's kind of in the phase where I'm at. I've been studying marketing for about a year and a half now. I found some marketing stuff online and I was like, I had a business and I was like, I really want to grow this business, but I knew how to run like some simple Facebook ads, but like that was the extent of like bringing new clients in. There was word of mouth, which kept my business afloat, but it's like, I couldn't control that. It wasn't dependent on me putting out content or putting stuff together. It was all like, hopefully these people stay in my good graces or whatever, they stay in their good graces. So they keep sending me clients. So I started studying about a year and a half ago. And I was like, this is really cool. It's like, I want to start a podcast about all this stuff because like you said, there is an art to it, but there's also a science to it, and knowing what pieces of the puzzle to put together and, where to drive traffic, how to drive traffic and all this kind of stuff. Like you talked about with the website, like it's not enough just to have a domain name with your picture on there. Like there's a science to putting a website together that curates getting more clients.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, you can get real deep down into the woods on so many different things, or woods, weeds, whatever. But for the average person, it's like, hey, are you tracking your KPIs, your key performance indicators? Are you seeing like an increase in people coming in your doors, or leads on your website, or are they kind of stagnant? It's, and looking at some of those things and then figuring out like Google Analytics. I mean, that thing, it's free and it is a treasure trove.
Yeah.
If you figure out like, oh, like I was working with one of my coaching clients over in Atlanta, and I was like, Stephanie, I was looking at your analytics and like, you have this one blog post from like 2 years ago that is crushing all your other pages. Like, why aren't you putting all your call to actions and all your stuff on that and like running ads to that and like just pouring fire onto that? She's like, oh, I never thought about that. And I'm like, yeah, how much can I just take $100 and like throw some money at that? And like, we're going to get you so many more clients because it's already so organic and like working like crazy. It's like, why not take what's
Yeah.
already working and just pour gasoline on it? And so that's the best part. It's like, if you can look at some of those simple kind of analytic kind of stuff and see, or Google Search Console, then like, it doesn't have to be, I have to spend $700 a month or whatever. You can do that if you want. But it's just seeing what's already working and how can you leverage that to your best ability.
I love that. I love that. And that's one of the things I tell people. I do a lot of Facebook lives, and it's like, it's because it lets me, like you said, it lets me see what's working, what the people who follow me want. If I get a lot of interactions, I'll do one Facebook live and it'll get 3 total views. And the next week I'll do one and it'll get 500 views and 20 shares. And it's like, okay, clearly cool. I need to do more content on that. Absolutely. So after talking about all that, what's your favorite marketing tool?
Gosh. My favorite marketing tool. I mean, outside of Google Search Console and Google Analytics, I'm trying to think of all the things, like what I pay for right now that I'm like, I really am into. So I'm just starting using Kartra, and it's still kind of blowing my mind. Like with all the things that it can do, I'm like, well, I can do that. I'm like, what? How do I do that? Like, so Kartra is one for sure. It's still newer for me, but it's really freaking cool. The other one I got actually off of AppSumo.
Okay.
And it's called, is it Pronto? I think. Okay. It's an online scheduler. And it will automatically send to Google My Business, and Facebook, and LinkedIn, and Twitter, and Instagram, and all that kind of stuff, which a lot of places, a lot of schedulers aren't doing Google My Business. And so, but it's super simple. And so it's literally like, put the content up and then away as it goes. Nice. So those are the two that kind of come to my mind first, outside of, I think I go on Google Analytics every single morning. So yeah.
Real quick, what is Kartra? You mentioned it before.
Yeah. Have you heard of Kajabi?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a competitor to Kajabi.
Okay. So it's like an all-in-one kind of thing. Website,
yeah. It's a cheaper
email.
Price point. Yeah. So instead, Kajabi is like $150 plus a month, and Kartra is $99. Okay. Yeah. So it's a little bit cheaper. But yeah, I really am enjoying it. I built, one of our counselors put together a anger management course. And so I built out all the stuff from templates, and pretty simple once I figured out what I was doing. But it integrates seamlessly with, like, they just make it really like dummy friendly, which I really appreciate. I'm like, I'm not trying to do some fancy wizardry stuff. But so it's pretty cool. But yeah, eventually I'll probably migrate my ConvertKit over to that. So I'm not just paying for two different things that essentially one just does the same, but it's a little bit more robust. So for the starting person though, in the healing industry, or really anyone who's like email marketing, like what ConvertKit, like you were saying, is pretty legit and pretty, that free 99 sounds pretty good too. So
yeah. Awesome. I'll link those up to Kartra and Pronto. I'm going to be checking out that.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you could go back in time and give yourself, when you first started, give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
That I think I was very hesitant to say who I really wanted to work with, because I felt like, as someone who, in the therapy realm or in the healing industry, it's like, I should work with everyone. I should help everyone. But you end up helping no one when you do that. And so for me, I know that I am a great therapist, but I'm not a great therapist for every single person on the planet. That's just not true. But I am a great therapist for the specific type of people and the communities of people that I work with that leave me feeling just jazzed and energized. And I'm like, oh, I can help you, and so I would definitely go back and tell myself that. And I have everything that I absolutely need in order to be successful, because I really believe that, like, who am I don't know anything, and like, oh, I don't even didn't really even believe in like the gifts that I was given to offer to others. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm just new, I don't really know. It's like, no, I have been given everything that I need for this purpose to step into my fullest potential, and how I was getting in my own way for a really long time. And so that's scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset, fixed versus growth, right? All that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I would definitely go back and tell myself those things.
I love that. And I was literally listening to a podcast right before this call, and they were talking about, instead of saying, what do I have to offer to everybody? It's who do I want to serve? And
Yes.
then creating that content for that specific person, because that's who you're energized to serve. You,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be excited to serve them. And I personally love that I have everything I need to be successful, like
Yeah.
mantra. Like
Yep.
that's something I struggle with every day. Basically, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, am I good enough? Do I have enough to offer? And it's like, and then I love it when I'm continuing to put myself out there in spite of those thoughts. And I love it when I have a conversation with somebody and they don't know anything about marketing and video and all this kind of stuff that I can help with. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Why didn't I think about this? Like
Yeah.
I talked to somebody recently who's sending all of their traffic just to their homepage. Like they're
Oh
running
no.
ads to their, you're right. They're running ads to their homepage. And I was like, no, we got to have like a landing page set up for you.
Yeah.
That's specific traffic, and they're like, oh, okay. I had never thought about that. And it's like, yeah. So I'm helping them out with that. So
Yeah. Good.
yeah, keep going in spite of that fear of failure and that, imposter syndrome that a lot of people call it,
Oh my
you know.
gosh. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
a lot of us, it's not so much of a fear of failure. I think if we're really honest, it's probably we're afraid of our own greatness. Like
Oh,
we're afraid of like how successful we could actually be, right? Like
interesting.
I don't know if it's so much of, oh, I'm so afraid of failure. It's like I think you're afraid to be really great, because that ultimate like that's going to mean a lot of things about like how you show up in the world and what you think about that, and money, and oh, I can't make six figures, and oh, I can't do that. It's like, well, why not? Well, who said that, so I think it's this it's really about this fear of being great and afraid of our own greatness, our own success, of like, well, then what would it mean for me if I actually could do the things that I dreamed of doing?
Yeah.
What would happen? It's like, but a lot of us want to carry on this narrative that, well, I suck, or I'm always a failure, or I just always mess up, or I'm never going to make it, or I'm never going to be great, or I'm never going to make six figures because of blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, cool. Yeah, you probably won't with that kind of mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so most of us, though, we don't even realize how we perpetuate these like limiting beliefs in our own lives of like, well, but what if you challenge that? Like, but what if you did? Like, what if you went and did that thing that you're like, huh, not me? It's like, oh crap, that would mean I'm going to have to level up, right? I'm going to have to step into a bigger part of who I am. But a lot of us have been taught that, hey, you need to live in this small little space, and that's comfortable and it's familiar, and it might be terrible, but like at least it's familiar, and like I know what is expected of me. I don't know what's expected of me if I get bigger and I take up more space and I show up in a different way. So
That's a really good point. That's something to think about in my own life.
yeah,
It's
it's
less of a
something that
fear
I
of
think about
failure. Yeah.
often. Yeah, I remember
That's like a
someone
really good
asking
point.
me that, and she was like, I think you're afraid of being really great. And I like instantly like started crying. I was like, I guess I am. But
Man,
it's true. It's like, oh, well, I'm like, oh gosh, I need
I'm
to do
gonna,
more work.
yeah, that I'm writing that down. Are you afraid of being great? Because I feel like that could be like one of the titles for this episode. Cause
Yeah.
like that's that's huge. Yeah, that's a mental block that people have. And like you said, if you go to them, it's like, hey, you can make six figures a year. And it's like, no, I can't. It's like, well, not with that attitude. Like you said, you're holding yourself back at that point.
Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh. I remember when I started Sunshine City Counseling, and I was like, it'd be, yeah, kind of neat. Like, let me just have a couple buddies and like, we'll work it out. And now, like we're 7 counselors deep, and like 2 new counselors are coming on now, and all my other therapists are basically full. And, I was looking at our numbers. I'm like, what if, I think prior to last year, we were making it was fine. it was kind of like a side hustle. And then last year I was like, I'm getting rid of every other job that I do. And I'm just going to like pour gasoline on Sunshine City and let's see what happens. And then the pandemic ended up happening. And I was like, whoa, we got to work this out. Cause now my husband's furloughed for 4 months because no one's going to sporting events. And my CPA was like, cool, you doubled your income.
Whoa.
So you actually owe money. I'm like, damn it. Also, that's awesome.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah. But like, even looking at like our revenue of like, okay, so we're pulling in like almost $30,000 a month as a team.
That's
and
awesome.
It's like, what if we pulled in 45? Oh my gosh, we'd be making gross like almost $500,000. And I caught myself. I was like, oh, we can't do that. And I was like, oh, no. But like, it's these things of like, I never would have ever imagined that was possible. But it's just like, hey, well, why not? So what if it doesn't happen? But like, what if it does?
That's amazing. I love it. I'm going to leave that there. So we mentioned it a couple times before, but what's the best place for people? Where do you want people to connect with you and follow you?
Yeah, the visionariescollective.com would be the best place. We actually have a free Facebook community, and so which is really, really cool, called the Visionaries Collective Community. So it's really hard to mess that up. So that's kind of our business mentorship program. We do a yearly mastermind. It's a 6-month long business mentorship program. So we just kind of started that. We're in our first month of the second kind of cohort. So it's super fun. So people, the first 3 months are all about like building and mindset, money, kind of like your ninja skill. And then the last 3 months are with me. And I teach you all the things around marketing and automation and systems and building out websites. And it's a ton of fun. But yeah, the visionariescollective.com would be the best place. And then if you're like, I don't know, I think I might want some one-on-one coaching, every now and then I open up some slots for that. And my personal page for that is growinghealers.com.
Awesome. Everybody go check that out, because this interview, I can tell like we were just like top of the iceberg, of everything that you have to offer. So there's a lot more down there. That's super cool. But Olivia, thank you again one more time for taking the time to be on here today and sharing this information you have. It's amazing. Absolutely.
I loved it. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. For everybody else out there listening, watching along, I appreciate you. I hope this was inspiring for you as it was for me. And remember, are you afraid of being great? Keep that in the back of your mind, and remember that marketing matters.